Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Visions of Atlantis, Pirates, out May 13th on Napalm Records. The album has 12 tracks, 58 minutes in length, and this is the band's 8th full-length studio album. They are an Austrian symphonic metal band. Now when you first look at this record, you see 12 songs, 58 minutes in length. You may think this album may be a little bit too long. Maybe it overextends itself. It doesn't have that feel once you start listening to it. The album is built like a book. When you grab a book and you start reading it, and the book is engaging, the book is charismatic, and it really connects with you, you're not looking at how many pages the book has or how long it's going to take you to get to the end. It's about enjoying the journey, about enjoying that experience that you're having in that moment. This album is exactly the same way. It's not about reaching the end of the record, it's about experiencing the album and enjoying every single moment that it has to offer to the listener. An album that has great movement, great fluidity, very dynamic. Now there are songs that break a little bit of that fluidity. They don't completely pause the fluidity of the album, but they definitely slow it down. The ballads of this record still have movement within them, and they're squeezed in between songs that have a lot of energy, that feel really big, really epic. So having them separated in that way and having them surrounded by more driven tracks really blunts a little bit of the experience of that slowed down process. It makes the album feel still very engaging, very dynamic, and it gives the necessary ebbs and flows to the overall experience so you don't have an album that feels very uniform from start to finish. You also have a song like Master the Hurricane, a 7+ minute track that comes really early on in the experience. I think a lot of bands would look at a song like this and move it a little bit deeper into the track listing because it might feel overwhelming to the listener to get such a big, powerful track right at the start of the listening experience. But when the song is that good, when it's well constructed, well delivered, has an incredible sound and vocal performance, I think you can pretty much put it anywhere you want. It's about the quality, not what that track is going to do to the listener otherwise. So I love the structure, I love the design, I love the risks, the gambles that they took with some of these songs in terms of how they placed them in the track listing order, but they knew that the quality of the record was going to surpass any imperfection that the design may have. As far as the soundscape is concerned, the album is definitely epic, it's symphonic, it has a big sound, big presence, big volume. Cinematic, I think, is a word that you could use to describe the overall experience. But where things are different on this album compared to the previous Visions of Atlantis record is that this album has a different motor. It has a different driver. The previous albums were heavily dependent on the symphonic elements to carry the listener. They were not just creating atmosphere, they were not just creating this cinematic essence that it becomes Visions of Atlantis. They were also carrying the listener and allowing you to feel connected with it because that was the main core, that was the main element that the albums had in store for you. The drums, the guitars were a little bit secondary, they were a little bit hidden by all of it. So you were connecting it with the symphonic side and obviously you were connecting with the vocals, and that was your experience as far as Visions of Atlantis were concerned. This album is built, designed, and delivered completely different. I feel like this album has the drums and guitars playing a more predominant role than any record before. It's undeniable. When you look at the heaviness of the sound, the heaviness of the drums, the power of the drums, the heaviness of the guitars, how thick they are, how chunky those riffs sound and how they come across, you really feel like that is what's pushing you forward. That is the wind in your sails, and that's what you're going to connect to. Obviously the vocal's going to be on top of it, driving, carrying you through, and that's absolutely normal and that's absolutely understandable. That's always been there as far as Visions of Atlantis is concerned. But I see the roles swapped. The drums and guitars moved forward, the symphonic elements moved behind it. So the symphonic elements are more there as texture, as layers, to add that cinematic vibe, to add that epic presence, to expand the footprint of the songs. And then you have the drums and the guitars that are filling in that footprint with substantial matter. There's texture there, there's movement, there's force, there's energy, and this makes the record sound more complete. It makes the record sound better, it has a lot more strength, it's more connected, it's more engaging, it's more pleasurable to listen to. It's an album that has a sense of becoming grandiose, but at the same time it still feels very humble and still feels very grounded. And that is the winning formula as far as this band is concerned, and I think they finally found it with this specific record. Now as far as vocals are concerned, you have Clementine, you have Mikhail, two incredible and yet very different vocalists. The dynamic between the two is perfect on this record. what Mikel can do is compensate for where Clementine can't go. So the two almost become one on every single track, regardless if the song is a duet or not. They complement each other perfectly. They're really passing the baton on this relay of vocal performance. The album is impeccable as far as vocals are concerned. And then when you add layers, when you add choirs, when you add different textures, you obviously even making the record more powerful, and then you're adding to that overall experience, to that overall essence, atmosphere, that cinematic style that the band has and delivers extremely well. But nothing can be taken away by how good these two vocalists are within their own range, within their own registries, but then how well they work with one another. Because you could have great vocalists, but if you don't understand each other and you don't understand what the song needs and where I can take it, and that from that point on it's all up to you, if you don't have that sort of confidence in your partner and who you're singing with, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're not going to be able to give the song everything that it needs and everything that it can be offered. And I felt like on this record they didn't hold back, and they were absolutely perfect from start to finish. Now, I've said this before, after the first singles, this was going to be the best Visions of Atlantis album to date. I know it was a hard thing to say when you only have a couple of singles to work with, but the quality of those singles was undeniable. After listening to this record, I'm completely convinced that this is, without a shadow of a doubt, their best album to date, for two main reasons. One is that joint merger of drums and guitars as the motors of the record, not depending so much on the symphonic elements sung in and sung out in order to drive the experience. Give the drums, give the guitars a little bit more of a role, allow the symphonic elements to still be there, but to be a little bit subjugated by the force that those two elements have and how much impact it can give these songs. And then secondly, the vocal performance of Clementine and Mikel is out of this world. The dynamic between the two, it's like they're joined at the hip. It's like they've been singing together since they were kids. It's phenomenal. When you have these two strong elements working well on a record with good mixing, with quality production, there's no way you can go wrong. This is their best album to date, sets the bar really high as far as where they're going to go afterwards. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Pirates Will Return. This is the opening track. It's a great song to introduce the album because it has a little bit of everything that the album offers. It has the same kind of atmosphere, same vocal performance. There is some heaviness as far as the drums and guitars are concerned. The album has that cinematic aroma. The song has that cinematic aroma to it. The drums and guitars work really well. They blend in perfectly as one. The keyboards on this track creating that symphonic drive. They're weaving in and out, coming into the forefront, dropping into the background, coming into the forefront, dropping into the background, creating an atmosphere that doesn't stay stagnant, that has movement to it, that expands and contracts, which is really important, allowing the song to feel a lot more powerful, even a lot bigger. So when you look at this track, when you look at the vocal performance, when you look at the sound, the atmosphere, the symphonic elements, the drums, guitars, this is a representation of what the whole record is going to be about. And I think that's exactly what you want from the opening song. You want the song to be memorable, you want the song to be engaging, you want the song to really connect with the listener, so from that moment on, you're glued to the rest of the album, and you want to have a little bit of an idea of what the record is going to be all about. You get all of that in Pirates Will Return. Next, we have Clocks. Now, this is perhaps the most bouncier, hookier, fun, power metal driven influence song on this album. I'm surprised that this was not one of the first singles, because this song is phenomenal. It still has the symphonic elements there, but the power metal influence on this track is undeniable. It really allows the song to jump up, to feel a lot happier, to feel a lot more bouncier, to feel a lot hookier. It has a lot more hooks vocally and melodically. So it's a song that's just really well constructed, that has a joyful vibe, makes you feel good about the track and about yourself when you're listening to it. The energy really exudes out of every single pore. It's a track that has a little bit of an anthem vibe, and then it has an incredible solo that extends the life of the song, that gives you a little bit of a different perception, that maybe brings the song back into that power metal drive, into those power metal roots, even classic heavy metal at times. And it's really important in order to make the song feel complete. Now, the chorus is tremendous. musically and vocally. And obviously, when you have a song that has that kind of a hook, that kind of a catchy chorus, you're always going to be attracted to it. It's going to become memorable. And this track has memorable moments all around. Last but not least, Legion of the Seas, a more symphonic driven song. This is an old school Visions of Atlantis song, allowing the symphonic elements to drive the experience of the track, not relying as heavily on the drums and guitars. Even though the drums and guitars still pack a punch on this song, they're not completely devoid of an impact, but they don't have the same drive, the same force. It's, like I said, a more traditional Visions of Atlantis song. I like how it works. I love the vocal choirs on this track. Really allows the overall vocal experience of the song to really jump out. But Michael, Clementine, tremendous. The range on display from both of them on this song is phenomenal. They really put everything on the table. Nothing was been held back. Everything is in front of you. You get to experience exactly what they can deliver from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other. Absolutely phenomenal song from that perspective. The vocals also enhance the symphonic side of the track, and the symphonic side of the track allows the vocals to go perhaps where they couldn't go otherwise. I just love how this song is put together. Once again, a little bit of a throwback to Visions of Atlantis, considering how the rest of the album is constructed and how the rest of the album comes along. This is it. Visions of Atlantis, Pirates, out May 13th on Napalm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.